Family dinners had always felt more like a chore than a tradition. My mother called them sacred, said they were what kept us all close, as if sitting around the same table eating roast beef and mashed potatoes could somehow erase the years that had pushed us apart. I never argued with her about it. She believed in family like it was something untouchable, something built to last no matter what. I used to believe that too. But that night, something was different. The dining room was alive with the usual sounds, forks scraping against plates, glasses clinking, my father launching into one of his tired rants about how kids these days don't know a damn thing about hard work. I half listened, nodding at the right moments, but my focus kept drifting elsewhere. Across the table, Hannah was laughing. Not just laughing, glowing. At first, it seemed normal. She had always been warm and friendly, always quick to smile, and she had always gotten along with Daniel. He was my younger brother, the golden boy of the family, the one who could do no wrong. People gravitated toward him, our parents, our friends, even strangers. It was effortless for him, the way he charmed everyone. I used to admire that about him, used to be proud of him. But tonight, something about the way Hannah looked at him made my stomach twist. It was not just a polite smile at a joke. It was the way she leaned in a little too close when he spoke, the way her eyes locked onto his like he was the only person in the room. It was the way their hands brushed when they reached for the same bottle of wine, how neither of them pulled away right away. Just a second too long. Daniel smirked. A look I had seen 100 times before, just never directed at my wife. My grip tightened around my fork, my knuckles going white. I was not the type to jump to conclusions. I was not the jealous kind, but I knew my wife. I knew my brother, and I knew when something was wrong. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. Conversations swirled around me, but I barely processed any of it. My mother asked if I wanted more potatoes. My father talked about his latest round of golf. My sister was showing off pictures of her new dog. None of it mattered. All I could do was watch. Then it happened again. Hannah reached for her glass, and Daniel leaned in, whispering something just low enough that no one else could hear. Whatever he said made her smile, not just a polite, casual smile. She bit her lip, just for a second, like she was trying to hold something back, like she was remembering something. And that was when I knew. The air felt thick, heavy. My pulse pounded in my ears. I wanted to stand up, slam my hands on the table, demand to know what the hell was going on right in front of me. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I sat there, silent, watching, calculating. By the time dinner was over, I felt like I was about to explode. I barely said goodbye to my parents, barely acknowledged my sister. Hannah was cheerful on the drive home, humming softly to herself, as if nothing had happened, as if she had not just spent the evening looking at my brother like a lovesick teenager. I should have confronted her right then, should have pulled the car over and asked her what the hell she thought she was doing. But I needed proof. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while Hannah slept beside me. Her breathing was slow, steady, peaceful. I turned my head to look at her. She looked so innocent. I had trusted her, had married her, believing she was the kind of woman who would stand by me, who would never betray me. But now I was not so sure. Her phone was on the nightstand, face up, charging. She always left it there, always said she had nothing to hide. I reached for it, my fingers closing around the cool metal. I hesitated for a moment. Was I really about to do this? Then I remembered the way she had looked at Daniel tonight. I turned on the screen. A message popped up instantly. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible. My breath caught in my throat. My heart pounded, louder than anything I had ever heard before. There it was. The truth. Plain as day. Everything inside me snapped. I stared at the message on Hannah's phone, my fingers tightening around the device like squeezing it hard enough could change what I was seeing. But nothing changed. The word stayed right there, glaring back at me, mocking me. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible. My stomach twisted, a sick, churning feeling spreading through me. I read it again and again, hoping, praying that I had somehow misread it. But I hadn't. Daniel, my own goddamn brother. A slow, seething rage built in my chest. I was not the kind of man who lost his temper easily. I had never been the guy who punched walls or screamed in someone's face. But right now, I wanted to destroy something. I glanced over at Hannah. She was still sleeping, her face relaxed, peaceful, completely unaware of the storm brewing right next to her. The woman I had built a life with, the woman I had trusted, was lying beside me, completely oblivious to the fact that I had just uncovered everything. She had been with Daniel. It was not just harmless flirting at dinner. It was real. It had happened. Last night was incredible. I felt like I could not breathe. I forced myself to stay still, to keep my breathing even. I could not wake her up. Not yet. Not until I had more. I needed to see everything. I unlocked her phone. She had never hidden the passcode from me, probably because she never thought I would go looking. I swiped into her messages, scrolling down to Daniel's name. And there it was. A full conversation stretching back for weeks. At first, it was small things. Messages that could have been mistaken for friendly banter. But as I scrolled, it got worse. I hate sneaking around, but I can't stop thinking about you. Same. Every time we're together, I don't want it to end. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. I kept scrolling. He doesn't suspect anything. He's always so busy with work. He barely notices when I leave. That one hit me like a punch to the gut. I had worked my ass off for us. Late nights, early mornings, making sure we had the life we wanted. And this is what I got in return. But the worst part was still coming. Last night was the best one yet. I love the way you... I did not even finish reading. My grip tightened, my pulse hammering in my ears. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. Wanted to shake her awake and demand to know how she could do this to me. Why she would betray me like this with him. My own brother. I forced myself to keep going. I needed more. The texts were not just about their affair. They were about me. I feel bad sometimes, but I don't know. He's so different from you. He actually makes me feel wanted. Like I was just some placeholder. Like I was not enough. It took everything in me not to wake her up right then and there. Instead, I set the phone back down, carefully, making sure it was exactly where I'd found it. Then I got out of bed. I walked out of the bedroom, shutting the door softly behind me. My movements felt automatic, like my body was running on instincts while my mind tried to catch up. I did not have a destination in mind. I just needed to get away from her. Away from the bed we had shared for years. Away from the life that had just shattered before my eyes. Before I knew it, I was in the kitchen, gripping the edge of the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. My whole body was trembling, my breath coming in short, ragged bursts. This was not just betrayal. It was not some random mistake, some meaningless one-night stand. This was my brother, Daniel. The same brother who used to trail after me when we were kids, always looking up to me, always wanting to do what I did. The one I had defended in school when others picked on him. The one I had helped get his first job, his first apartment. The same brother I had invited into my home, trusted around my family, my wife. And he had done this to me. I had never felt this kind of rage before. It was not just anger. It was something deeper, something uglier. Something I did not even have words for. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, gripping the counter, staring at nothing, my mind running in circles. What the hell was I supposed to do next? Confront her now? No, not yet. Drive over to Daniel's place and beat him to a pulp? That idea had its appeal, but I knew it would not be enough. I needed a plan. I was not going to be the fool who got cheated on and just walked away. I was not going to let them win. They were going to regret this. Every single second. And it was going to start tomorrow. I did not sleep that night. I sat in the living room, staring at nothing, listening to the clock on the wall tick away the minutes. Each second dragged on, pressing down on me, feeding a slow-burning rage that refused to cool. I could hear Hannah shifting in the bedroom, probably rolling over in her sleep, completely unaware of the storm brewing right beside her. That was the part that made me sick, how easily she could rest. How peaceful she looked, lying in my bed, under my roof, after sneaking around with my own brother. The text had confirmed everything. This was not some fleeting mistake. This was deliberate, planned, ongoing. She had lied to my face, again and again. I clenched my fists, feeling my nails dig into my palms. For years, I had been the man who let things slide. The man who worked hard, kept his head down, took care of his family. I never played the victim. Never started fights. But this was not something I could let go. At some point, the sun began creeping through the windows, casting long shadows across the room. My mind had been racing all night, playing out scenarios, imagining what I would say, what I would do. By the time Hannah's alarm went off in the bedroom, I had a plan. I heard her shuffle out of bed, her footsteps light as she made her way to the bathroom. A few minutes later, she emerged, wearing her usual morning attire, tank top, shorts, hair up in a messy bun. She stretched, yawning as she wandered into the kitchen. She had not even noticed me sitting there. Typical. She went straight to the coffee maker, humming softly as she prepared her drink. I watched her. How many mornings had I kissed her goodbye, told her I loved her, never once suspecting she had been sneaking around behind my back? How many times had I worked late, exhausted, thinking I was doing right by her, while she was with him? She had no idea I knew. Not yet. I leaned forward, letting the chair creak under my weight. That was when she finally noticed me. "Oh," she said, surprised. "I did not even see you there." Her voice was light, normal. It made my blood boil. "Did not sleep," I said, keeping my tone even. She frowned, walking over with her coffee in hand. "Again? You have been working too hard." She reached out, running her fingers through my hair. "You should have woken me up," she murmured. "I could have helped." I fought the urge to flinch. Help? The same hands that had been all over my brother were touching me like nothing had changed. The audacity of it nearly made me laugh. "I'm fine," I said, forcing a small smile. Her fingers lingered for a second before she pulled back. "Well, if you were up early anyway, maybe we could go out for breakfast? Just us." She smiled. Soft, sweet, like the wife she used to be. Or maybe she had always been like this, and I had just never seen it. I tilted my head. "You are in a good mood." She laughed lightly. "Why would I not be?" And that was the moment I knew. She was never going to confess. Not today. Not ever. Even if I confronted her right now, even if I shoved her phone in her face and demanded the truth, she would deny it. I could already hear the excuses forming in her head. "It is not what it looks like. You are overreacting. It was just a mistake." I was not going to give her the chance. Not yet. I played along. I let her kiss me on the cheek, let her sit across from me at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, talking about nothing, completely oblivious to the fact that I had read every disgusting, pathetic text she had sent to my brother. I wanted to see how far she would go. Would she text him today, right in front of me? Would she meet up with him, pretending she was still the loving wife while sneaking around behind my back? I needed to know how deep this went. So I nodded when she suggested breakfast. I smiled when she held my hand in the car. I listened to her talk about the weekend, like she had not been betraying me for months. But beneath it all, I was watching, waiting, taking mental notes of every lie that spilled from her lips. I was not just going to confront her. I was going to make sure she felt this. Every ounce of pain, every bit of anger, every single moment of betrayal. She was going to experience it tenfold. Because this was not just about me. This was about us. About the years I had given her. About the trust she had shattered. About the family she had destroyed. And it was about him. Daniel had taken what was mine. And I was not about to let that slide. By the time we got back home, I had already started putting my plan into motion. Hannah thought she had fooled me. She had no idea what was coming. Hannah had no idea I knew. No clue that every sweet smile, every gentle touch, every casual word she spoke over breakfast was being picked apart in my mind. She played the role of the devoted wife effortlessly, laughing at my jokes, squeezing my hand across the table, asking me about my plans for the day like she actually cared. If I had not seen those texts with my own eyes, I might have believed her. But I had seen them. And now, every time she looked at me, all I could think about was the way she had looked at Daniel across the dinner table. The way she had leaned into him, her eyes shining, her smile just a little too wide. She was not looking at me like that now. No, this was the performance she put on for me, the husband she was stringing along while she slithered around behind my back. It took everything in me to keep my expression neutral, to nod along like I was not planning her downfall with every second that passed. I did not confront her that morning, or that afternoon. Instead, I waited, because now that I knew the truth, I wanted to see everything. I was not just going to catch her in a single lie. I was going to catch her in all of them. I wanted to see how deep this betrayal went. How many times she had kissed me good night before sneaking off to him. How many times she had told me she loved me while lying to my face. So I played along. When we got home for breakfast, she stretched out on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing was wrong. Like she was not sending messages to my own brother, planning their next meeting. She glanced up at me. I might head out for a bit later. I barely reacted. Yeah? Where to? She shrugged. I was thinking about stopping by the mall. I need a few things. Lie. She was not going to the mall. I had seen the texts. Meet me at the apartment around 2. I'll tell him I'm going shopping. See you soon. Right on schedule. I nodded, pretending to be disinterested. Sound good. Need me to pick up anything while you are out? She smiled, oblivious. Nope, I have got it. She thought she was so clever. A few hours later, she kissed me on the cheek before heading out. She even threw in an I love you. The words made my stomach turn. I watched her walk out the door, her car pulling out of the driveway. I let her get a few minutes head start. Then I grabbed my keys and followed. I kept a good distance, careful not to get too close. I was not a detective, had never been trained for this, but I did not need to be. She was not expecting me to be watching. She was not expecting anything. Sure enough, she did not go anywhere near the mall. Instead, she drove straight across town, taking back roads, avoiding the main streets. Almost like she was being careful. Almost like she knew this was wrong. She pulled into the parking lot of an apartment complex, one I recognized immediately. Daniel's place. She did not hesitate. She parked, stepped out of the car, and walked inside like she had done it 100 times before. Maybe she had. I sat there in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. So this was it. Proof. Undeniable. It was not just texts. It was not just flirty glances. She was here, with him. The anger inside me was boiling over, threatening to take control. Every instinct in my body told me to march up those stairs, kick the door down, and drag Daniel out by his throat. But I did not. Not yet. Because this was not just about catching them. It was about ruining them. I forced myself to sit back, taking slow, deep breaths. I needed to be patient. I needed to be smart. I grabbed my phone and started taking pictures. Hannah's car in the parking lot. Her walking into the building. The exact time she arrived. Evidence. Then I waited. Minutes passed. Then an hour. She was in there for a long time. I imagined what they were doing, and my blood pressure spiked so hard I thought I might actually black out. But I stayed put, because this was only the beginning. By the time she finally came out, the sun was already starting to set. She stepped out of Daniel's building, adjusting her hair, smoothing down her clothes like she was making sure she did not look too disheveled, like she wanted to cover her tracks. She had no idea that I had already seen everything. I snapped another picture. Then I drove home. I beat her back by 10 minutes, just enough time to pour myself a drink and sit on the couch like I had never left. When she walked through the front door, she looked exactly the same as she had when she left, except now I knew what she had been doing. She smiled. Hey, babe. I forced myself to look up at her, to smile back. Hey, get what you needed. She nodded. Yeah, but the mall was packed. Took longer than I thought. Lie. I sipped my drink. Yeah? Buy anything? She hesitated, just for a split second. A flicker of panic in her eyes before she covered it up. A few things, she said casually. Nothing exciting. I smiled. Let me see. That was when I saw it, fear. It was just a flash, a quick flicker of hesitation. But it was there, because she had nothing to show me. She had not been shopping. She had not bought anything. She had spent the last few hours in his bed. She laughed it off, waving a hand. Oh, I left some of it in the car. I will bring it in later. Lie. I sipped my drink again, nodding. Sounds good. I watched her as she walked into the kitchen, pouring herself some water like nothing was wrong. She really thought she was getting away with this. She really thought I was just another clueless husband who had no idea what was happening under his own roof. She was dead wrong, because I was not just going to expose her. I was going to destroy her. And Daniel? He was not walking away from this either. This was just the beginning. I had all the proof I needed. The texts, the photos, the lies spilling out of Hannah's mouth like she had been rehearsing them for months. But exposing them was not enough. Not yet. This was not about catching my wife cheating. This was about making her pay for it. Jason, my own brother. Not just some random guy she had met at a bar. Not some faceless stranger. He was the kid I had grown up with. The one who would follow me around when we were kids, begging to be included in everything I did. The one I had defended when bullies tried to push him around. The one I had helped with jobs, with money, with advice, every damn time he needed me. And now, he was the one sneaking around behind my back, sitting across from me at family dinners, smiling like nothing was wrong, while he was sleeping with my wife. They had both made a fool out of me, but that was about to change. The first step, laying the foundation. Hannah still thought she had gotten away with it. She walked around the house like nothing had changed, kissed me goodnight, made small talk over breakfast, went through the motions of being a loving wife. But I was not playing the part of the clueless husband anymore. I was planning, calculating, watching. I started small. That night, after she fell asleep, I took her phone again, not to read more of her disgusting texts, but to make sure she did not catch on. I marked her messages with Daniel as unread, put the phone back exactly as I found it. Then I took it a step further. I checked the browser history on our shared laptop. Sure enough, she had been covering her tracks, deleting searches, erasing messages, making sure there was no obvious trail. But nobody is perfect. I dug deeper. I found emails she had not thought to delete, logged into our phone carrier's records, and pulled up call logs. She had called Daniel every single day, multiple times, and yet she never mentioned him to me. Not once. I took screenshots, saved them, backed them up to a separate drive. Every little thing was another nail in the coffin. Hannah had no idea I was turning the screws on her, but I wanted her to feel it. The next morning, I acted normal, like any other day. I kissed her before leaving for work, told her I would be home late. Except I never went to work. I parked a few blocks away and waited. And like clockwork, she left the house an hour later, dressed up like she was heading out for a date. I already knew where she was going, so I beat her there. I drove straight to Daniel's apartment, parked out of sight, and waited. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, Hannah pulled into the lot. She glanced around just for a second before hurrying inside. That tiny moment of hesitation told me everything. She knew what she was doing was wrong. She was just hoping she would not get caught. I took more pictures. Her car in his lot. Her walking inside. Time-stamped. Documented. Then I made my next move. I called her. She answered on the second ring, her voice just a little too chipper. "Hey, babe," she said. "What's up?" I could hear the lie in her voice, the fake casualness. "Just thinking about you," I said, keeping my tone even. "Wanted to see how your day was going." "Oh, just running some errands." Lie. I could almost hear the tension in her breathing. She was standing in his apartment, talking to me. I wanted to laugh. "Anything exciting?" I asked. "Not really," she said quickly. "Just picking up some things for the house." I glanced at her car, still parked in Daniel's lot. For a second, I considered telling her I was watching, that I knew exactly where she was, exactly who she was with. But I held back, because I was not done yet. "All right," I said smoothly. "See you later." "Love you," she said. I let a pause stretch just a little too long. Then I said it back. She had no idea how close she was to losing everything. I did not confront Daniel. Not yet. I wanted him to sweat. So I started dropping hints. Little things. At the next family gathering, I made sure to shake his hand a little too firmly. Held his gaze just a little too long. He flinched. Good. Hannah, on the other hand, acted like nothing was wrong. She even looped her arm through mine at one point, leaning into me like she was the perfect wife. I let her, because soon she would be begging for that privilege. A few days later, I pushed further. We were sitting on the couch one evening, watching TV, when I casually brought up Daniel. "Haven't seen much of my brother lately," I said, keeping my voice light. "Think he has been busy with work?" Hannah stiffened. It was small, almost imperceptible, but I caught it. "Oh," she said, feigning nonchalance. "Yeah, probably. He mentioned something about a project the last time I saw him." Lie. I almost smirked. "You talked to him much?" I asked. She hesitated. "Not really." Lie. I had phone records that said otherwise. I nodded, pretending to believe her, letting the silence stretch between us. She shifted uncomfortably, playing with the hem of her shirt. I could feel the tension radiating off her. She was nervous. Good. That meant she was starting to feel it. She did not know how much I knew, but she knew something was off, and that was exactly where I wanted her. By now, I had everything I needed. Proof, a timeline, witnesses, a clear-cut case of betrayal. But I was not just going to throw it in her face. No, I was going to make her crumble. I started leaving subtle reminders around the house. One day, I left Daniel's cologne on the bathroom counter, just sitting there. Hannah saw it. Her face went pale. "Is this yours?" she asked, her voice just a little too forced. I shrugged. Must have left it here at some point. She nodded, but I saw the way her fingers clenched around the bottle before she put it away. A few days later, I accidentally left my phone open on the kitchen counter, right on a fake Google search about cheating spouses. When she walked by, she froze. Did not say a word, but I could feel her watching me more closely after that. Good. Let her wonder. Let her sweat. Let her realize, slowly, painfully, that her world was about to collapse. And then I would end it. Emily was unraveling. I could see in the way she moved, the way her fingers twitched when she thought I wasn't looking. She barely ate, barely spoke, kept checking her phone when she thought I wasn't watching, her eyes darting across the screen with a paranoia that hadn't been there before. She was waiting for me to explode, waiting for Jason to say something, do something, confirm her worst fear, that I knew everything. But I wasn't going to give her that release. No, I wanted her to sit in it, to stew in it, to drown in it, because I wasn't just going to end this. I was going to make her end it first. A week had passed since I followed Emily to Jason's apartment. A week of watching, waiting, letting her dig her own grave. And then she slipped. It was late, past midnight. I was in bed, pretending to sleep, waiting. Then I heard it, a soft vibration from her nightstand. A text. Emily shifted beside me, her breathing changing slightly. She thought I was asleep. Slowly, carefully, she reached for her phone, turning her body away from me as she checked the screen. I didn't move, didn't react, but I didn't need to see the name. I already knew who it was. Jason. A second passed, then another, and then she did something she hadn't done before. She deleted the message. I knew because the screen flashed twice. The first time when she opened it, the second when she cleared the notification. It was instinctive, a reaction, and it was the proof I had been waiting for. She knew she was doing something wrong. She knew she had to hide it, and that meant she was scared. The game was shifting. I wasn't just suspecting her anymore. Now she suspected me too. The next morning, I let her sit in her own anxiety. She was quiet over breakfast, stirring her coffee too long, not meeting my eyes as easily as she usually did. And I acted like everything was fine, because that's what she wanted. She needed me to be oblivious. She needed to believe she still had the upper hand. So I gave it to her. But that afternoon, I made my next move. I waited until she left for work, then grabbed my spare key to Jason's apartment. He didn't know I still had it. And why would he? I had given it back years ago, or so he thought. But I had made a copy back when we were still close, back when I never imagined I'd need it for something like this. I drove across town, parked 2 blocks away, and walked to his building like I belonged there. Nobody questioned me. Nobody stopped me. Jason was at work. Emily was across the city. I was about to step into their sanctuary. The moment I stepped inside Jason's apartment, I felt it. That wrongness. The air was thick with it. I walked through the place, slowly, methodically, taking in everything. It was too clean, too perfect, like he had wiped the place down recently. Almost like he was covering something up. I checked the bathroom first. A second toothbrush sat next to his. A woman's toothbrush. Not just any woman's. Emily's. A fresh bottle of her perfume sat on the counter. Her scent was everywhere. I moved to the bedroom. The bed was made, but I knew better. I pulled the sheets back. Sure enough, the faintest trace of perfume clung to the fabric. I walked to the closet. Jason's clothes were shoved to one side. The other? Emily's. Folded neatly. A few dresses, a sweater. One of her bras tucked into the corner, hidden but not well hidden. She lived here. Not full-time. Not yet. But enough that she was comfortable. Enough that she had a place in his life, in his bed. Enough that she knew this wasn't just some meaningless affair. This wasn't just cheating. This was something more. I felt something inside me shift. A cold, calm clarity. I wasn't angry in this moment. I was focused, because I wasn't here just to see their betrayal. I was here to set the stage. I started small. I opened one of Jason's drawers and carefully rearranged a few things. Nothing drastic, just enough to make him second-guess himself. Then, I went to Emily's side of the closet and took one of her sweaters. Not to keep, to leave somewhere. A place Jason wouldn't think to check. A place where Emily wouldn't remember leaving it. A place that would make them question each other. Then, I grabbed a pen and a sticky note from Jason's desk. I wrote, "Does he know?" Then, I tucked it under Emily's perfume bottle in the bathroom. She'd find it eventually. And when she did, she'd panic, because she wouldn't know who left it. Jason? Me? Someone else? It would plant the first seed of doubt. And doubt could destroy them faster than I ever could. I walked out of the apartment exactly as I had entered, calm, silent, unnoticed. And when Emily came home that night, I acted like nothing had changed. But everything had. The breaking point. The next day, I waited. Waited for Emily to go to Jason's place again. Waited for her to see the note. Waited for the paranoia to set in. And then I made my move. That evening, as we sat down to dinner, I looked across the table and said, "Hey, I ran into Jason today." Emily froze. "Oh," she said too casually. "That's nice." I nodded, watching her carefully. "Yeah, he seemed off." Her hand tightened around her fork. "Off how?" I shrugged. "I don't know. Like something was bothering him. Like he was nervous about something." I saw the flicker of fear in her eyes. The way she quickly looked down at her plate, trying to compose herself. "I'm sure it's nothing," she muttered. But I wasn't done. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my voice smooth. "Maybe I should ask him about it next time I see him." Emily snapped. "No." It came out too fast. Too sharp. I raised an eyebrow. "No." She forced a laugh, shaking her head. "I just mean you don't need to. He's probably just stressed with work." Lie. And now, she knew I knew something. I took a sip of my drink, let the silence stretch, let her squirm. Then I set my glass down and said, "Yeah, you're probably right." Because I wanted her to sit in it. I wanted her to stew in the fear. I wanted her to wait for the moment everything came crashing down. Because she wouldn't know when I was going to strike. But she knew it was coming. And that was the real punishment. She had no idea how deep I had buried the knife. But she could feel it twisting. And that was exactly what I wanted. It happened 3 days after I planted the note. Emily had been on edge the entire time, pacing the house, biting her nails, a nervous tick I had not seen in years. She was distracted, her usual confidence completely stripped away. Then, she made a mistake. It was late afternoon. I was sitting in the living room, pretending to scroll through my phone, when she grabbed her keys. "I'm heading out for a bit," she said. I looked up, keeping my expression neutral. "Where to?" She hesitated. "Too long. Just the store," she said quickly. "We need a few things." Lie. We had gone shopping yesterday. The fridge was stocked. I did not call her out on it. I just nodded. "All right." She paused for a second, waiting for something, expecting something. Maybe an accusation. Maybe a question. When I gave her nothing, she swallowed hard, turned, and walked out the door. I gave her a head start. Then I grabbed my keys and followed. I did not even have to guess where she was going. I already knew. I parked a block away from Jason's apartment, watching from a distance as Emily's car pulled in. She did not hesitate this time. She was too anxious, too desperate for answers. She went inside, her body language tense, urgent. She was afraid. I smirked. Good. This time, I did not wait. This time, I got out of my car, walked right up to Jason's front door, and knocked. Hard. I heard movement inside, frantic whispers, the shuffling of feet. Then, Jason's voice, low and panicked. "Shit. It is him." Emily gasped. No, he would not. But I knocked again, louder. And this time, I did not wait for an invitation. I twisted the handle and pushed the door open. Jason and Emily were standing in the middle of the living room, frozen like deer caught in headlights. She was pale, her eyes wide, her hands trembling at her sides. "Jason?" He looked terrified. "Hey," I said casually, stepping inside. "Hope I'm not interrupting anything." Emily took a step forward, her voice shaking. I raised a hand, cutting her off. "Save it," I said. Then I turned to Jason. "My own brother, huh?" Jason swallowed hard. "Listen, man, No," I said sharply. "You listen." I took another step forward, watching as he instinctively took one back. You sat across from me at dinner. You shook my hand. You pretended to be my brother while screwing my wife behind my back. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Emily reached for my arm. Please, let me explain. I yanked away from her. She flinched. Explain. I laughed, shaking my head. Oh, this should be good. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling. Her eyes widened. What are you doing? She stammered. I smirked. Oh, just looking through some of our memories together. I pulled up the photos. The ones of her car in Jason's parking lot. The ones of her walking into his apartment, time-stamped. Then I pulled up the texts. The ones I had forwarded to myself. Then the phone records. Every call. Every lie. I turned the screen toward her. Want to explain this? Her breath hitched. Jason paled. For a second, the room was completely silent. Then she cracked. Okay, yes, she burst out, hands shaking. I was with him, but it did not mean anything. Bullshit, I said coldly. She started crying. I did not care. I made a mistake, she sobbed. I did not mean to hurt you. I laughed, stepping back. Did not mean to? I gestured to Jason. So what? You tripped and fell onto my brother. She choked on a sob. It was not like that. Oh, really? I tilted my head. Because the texts say otherwise. Jason finally found his voice. Look, man, I was stupid, okay? I was not thinking. I turned on him so fast he flinched. You were not thinking? My voice dropped to a dangerous calm. So what were you thinking, Jason? When you invited my wife into your bed? When you sat across from me at dinner, pretending like nothing was wrong? His mouth opened and closed. Coward. I trusted you, I said quietly. Both of you. Emily stepped forward, desperate. Please, we can fix this. I let out a slow breath, shaking my head. Then I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a stack of papers. Her face fell. She knew what they were before I even said a word. Divorce papers, I said. Already signed. Just need your signature. She gasped. Wait, what? No, we can talk about this. I shoved the papers into her chest. You already made your choice. Jason opened his mouth. Dude, do not. I cut him off with a glare, so sharp he shut up instantly. Then I turned back to Emily. You get nothing, I said. No money, no house, no second chances. Her lips trembled. And as for you, I turned back to Jason. I do not have a brother anymore. Jason looked like I had just punched him in the gut. Wait. I stepped past him, walking toward the door. Emily chased after me. Please wait. I turned back one last time. She was sobbing, clutching the divorce papers like they were a lifeline. Jason just stood there, defeated, looking at the wreckage we had once called a family. And me? I felt nothing. Just cold, hard satisfaction. I stepped out the door, pulling it shut behind me. And as I walked away, I heard Emily collapse into sobs. I did not turn back, because she was not my problem anymore.